Mother. I'm your host, Sadia. This is here's a special episode. I somehow became a dad, like that was legal. So, I guess the topic we're talking about is fatherhood instead of motherhood. So we're taking over. As a father, I think it's very important to understand, your resilience, but don't take yourself too seriously, but work hard, be due diligence, and also understand how much criticism mothers get. That's one thing I kind of realized going through this research, looking things up, that like women unfortunately just rip on each other to a point where it's like breastfeeding versus formula feeding versus whether you should when you should do it or should you not do it. Um, you know, different clothing to wear, how to bundle your baby. And I think people need to just give themselves a pat on the back that at least they're a parent and they're going to be a good parent. And with that positive attitude, they can work on it. Maybe not be so defensive in like 15 years from time when the kid says he hates you and he wishes different things and starts criticizing your parenting skills. You could tell him that like he was very slippery and that was okay. um but it's definitely, I think, that one of the biggest joys in my entire life, I would have to say. It's so surprising to even talk about it because I don't know, it sounds kind of hacky. It sounds like, oh, it's the greatest thing in the world. You're gonna like it. Blah, 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 blah. Like, and then you realize it was not what it chalked up to be. Like, so far, like, yeah, sleepless nights. You got to stay up. My wife does a lot more than I can ever do, and I'm just totally impressed by her, impressed by everything else. That's really the truth. Um, but what was it like when you were first pregnant and giving birth?
Good question. Um, I think it was more difficult than it is today.
Hmm.
Honestly, the baby equipment, the just in general, the diapers, just uh, there are a lot more developments in the area of baby equipment and also psychology that were not available. And my generation, we were still using cloth diapers.
Mm.
And don't ask how many times I stuck myself or stuck the baby with a pin, with Jack cloth diapers with pins. They had diaper service. Most people use diaper service. They did have Pampers. Pampers were the first disposable diapers, but they were expensive.
Mhm.
And also, not all children could use them. One of your sisters was actually allergic to disposable diapers and could only use cloth. With cloth diapers, um, they sold plastic panties that went with the cloth diapers, so the baby was like in a bubble. But a lot of times, you had like these plastic panties. That you would run out of them. They got wet, they got dirty, and as much as you tried to wash them out by hand and dry them, they weren't totally dry. So a lot of times, you just used cloth diapers, and diapers got wet, the outfits got wet. Change the diapers, change the outfit, change the diapers, change the outfits. There was also the they didn't have I'm gonna say the there were there were baby seats. There were no regulations, by the way, yet about needing to use a car seat for a baby. It was up to the discretion of the individual.
Yeah,
And so a lot of mothers felt, well, as long as I'm holding the baby while we're driving, that's fine.
yeah.
And laws regulating the use of car seats didn't come out till about the 1980s,
Hmm.
like early mid 1980s, 1982, something like that, 83. Um, and the problem with that was before they passed those laws, I would have terrible fights with family members that wanted, to take the baby for a little while, weekend, whatever, for a few, for a few hours. My parents did not give me an argument because my mother told my father, you do whatever your daughters tell you to do with their children because these are their children.
Mm.
And if anything happens to them on your watch, and you didn't listen, it's not gonna be good. So my parents, thank God, when it came to putting the baby in a car seat, did not give me a hard time. Unfortunately, my husband's parents did give me a hard time about that. So that's why I was very grateful when they finally passed the laws, um, that now, it's in other words, if I said put the baby in a car seat because it's safer, they might not listen to me. But if I say put the baby in a car seat because if you don't, you get stopped by a cop, you're going to pay a fine. Now they listen.
It's that's so funny because I think I remember watching a a clip on YouTube about when they first started making it illegal to drink and drive, and people were all like upset about it and
When
up in
was,
arms.
when was that passed?
70s or 80s?
No, it had to be before. You sure?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
I thought it was always illegal to drink and drive.
No,
Looking it up now.
don't worry about it. We're not going to do that.
Okay.
We're not.
I got my cell phone. Can I
No,
go get my cell
it's
phone?
fine.
You want?
We'll look it up
Okay,
later.
sorry.
You might
Okay.
please
But anyway,
follow
but
through.
when they first came out with car seats, baby car seats, they were very difficult to deal with.
Yeah,
What you had to do was, in those days, the cars had like this little platform in the back. I think we would have covered this in one of our podcasts
yeah,
previously. And you actually had to drill a hole in it and screw one of the
yeah. We had to like really damage
yeah,
the vehicle to go ahead and
yeah.
make it happen.
And once you got that car seat, and that car seat was there permanently. So if you switched cars, too bad. Whenever you took the baby, you had to take that car. Then thank God they have now, like, baby carriers that you can just convert right into car seats. Just put them in the car and put the seatbelt over them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot easier.
Well, that's what's so funny because like
Hmm.
we were talking about when you were younger, when you were a mother back in the day, and how like nowadays, like I'm being told like no one's allowed to kiss the baby until they're fully vaccinated, or to use special baby detergent to wash the clothes for the baby.
Hmm. Well,
Um,
with my first child, they
yeah,
told me that, yeah, to keep the baby clothing separate and to use, it was Ivory Snow.
Ivory Snow.
Yeah, Ivory Snow it was called. Ivory Snow. Ivory Snow was supposed to be a gentle
Hmm.
detergent for, delicates and for babies' clothes. And they made great little snowmen. There was an art project that Miss Nancy did on Romper Room that I did at home with my mother, where you take Ivory Snow, you add a little bit of soap to it, a little bit of water to it, and then you can make it into a ball, and you make three little balls like a snowman, and then you put a little ribbon on it, and you might want to use like raisins for the eyes or something. And it was that was like a cute little snow project where you could actually take Ivory Snow and make like a little soap
Hmm.
sculpture, and you could actually use it for soap afterwards. Yeah, for
That's really
on the
cute.
sink. And then when my other kids came around, I think after kid number, if your brother Yehuda, that's when they said it's not necessary to separate the baby's clothes. You can wash the baby's clothes in regular detergent with everything else. And the thing about kissing the baby, now that's a new one on me about not kissing the baby
Yeah.
till the baby's fully vaccinated. That's a new one on me.
Yeah. You want to get that? Is that yours? It's
Yes, it's
fine.
mine.
It's fine. Just get it. Well, it is what it is. We'll keep it live.
Yes.
Um, what's interesting is what you just said is that they go back and forth. There's so many different things in child rearing that like I just been getting a whole headache. Hold on a second. I have to take this because whatever, we'll do it. We'll do it live. Hey, Ati, you're on the podcast. What's up? Yeah. Yeah.
What you say can be used against you.
That would be cool because you would by 16. Not be there exactly. It's very easy. All she has to do is pick the cake and the candies and the chocolate and the bottles and a pitcher of water on the table. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. We'll set up the Wachnacht tonight. We're just trying to do the podcast to crunch in the time because the rest of the day I'll be busy. Everyone else is gonna be busy, and then because tomorrow's God willing is gonna be the bris. Oh, milk or Fleischik.
Um,
Okay, so I'll have to have Parv and I'll have to wait 3 hours.
we're fine. I'm fine.
I'll do the falafel. Yeah, it's fine. You're just eating up, my airtime. It's fine. Thank you so much, Etty. You're the best. Love you.
Love you. And don't worry, I'll even help eat the cupcakes for you.
Yeah. Like
Okay. So tell our audience what Bachnacht is.
Fastnacht. It's the night before the bris. It's when little boys and girls come to the house of the new parents, and they have cakes and cookies and lollipops, and they go ahead and say Kriya Shema with the baby, and they say the prayers of the baby and give them blessings. And it's supposed to wish him, good luck with the next, rest of his life, and as well as the night before he, he fully becomes a man. I'll chop it off in half. And yeah, it's interesting because speaking of Wachnacht and circumcision and bris, I was speaking to Ruthie's sister, and it was funny because she was talking about like one thing that she understands the importance of circumcision, understands the importance of bris and everything else, but it pains her when she hears her child cry. So when the child was going through the bris, for her at least, it hurt her. Emotionally, it was very vulnerable to her. Did you feel that way, or you didn't really care? Just curious, making questions.
Yeah, so all mothers are touched when they hear their babies cry, but like my pediatrician's wife, who was his receptionist and nurse, she's also a nurse in his office, and she said, "Don't worry, ask the baby about it the next day; they'll forget all about it." But when we do it at 8 days for a very good reason. First of all, the greatest explanation I ever heard about bris milah was I think it was Aria Kaplan, one of Aria Kaplan's books, said that there's a belief, a lot of homeopathic people believe this, that our external organs are connected to our internal organs,
Mm,
and that in a boy, the penis has a spiritual connection to the heart. So in a circumcision, you are removing a tough piece of skin from not only the external organ, but you're spiritually removing a toughness
mm.
from the heart, from the spirituality of the heart, and making this person a more refined spiritual individual.
And it makes it look bigger and last longer. You're right, 100%. And that's the so importance of circumcision. Um, yeah, no, it's a lot of fun.
Behave yourself,
Great,
man.
good time.
This is supposed to be a family show.
No, it's not. I don't think I will ever. Uh, but definitely, I would say I feel pride. I feel happiness.
Mhm.
Um, I'm telling myself that I'm just trying to make sure that everything is gonna be fine. Don't be too nervous, like because when the baby was born, it was yellow a little bit, and I was a little worried. And then I spoke to the doctors, and the doctor said it was fine, and then the mola said it was fine, so everything should be okay. It was just that I didn't realize how panicky I would be. I didn't realize how concerned I would be. Um, that's one thing I noticed about myself that I'm like, was there any personality that you noticed that like you didn't expect of yourself, and then all of a sudden now, like once you started becoming a parent, your personality really shifted.
Well, I became more of a as you get older, I hate to say, you become a little more of a worrywart
Hmm.
because
You've seen too much.
you hear, and you see so many, you know, unfortunate and scary things
Yeah,
as you go on in life that it frightens you. You say, well, if that could happen to that person, that means it can happen to me, and you know, and also just turn on the news,
oh yeah,
and oh my God, just turning on the news is enough to make you, you know,
yeah, go crazy.
or watch forensic files. You won't trust anybody if
Yeah,
you're watching forensic files.
yeah,
um, but then it comes to the point in your life where you say, a normal person will say, look, I can't go through life like this constantly worrying.
yep,
You're not going to be able to enjoy life if you do this. And there's just because you hear so many unfortunate things happening in this world doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen to you. And you have to have a little faith in God. And there's only so much as a human being you can do. You just, you take reasonable precautions and pray and have a little faith in God, and just, you have to go on with life because um my mother, unfortunately, was one of these worry warts. Don't do this, don't do that, be careful of this, be careful of that. And it we asked when I was a little girl one time, we asked our father, why is it that, mom is always so scared all the time? She doesn't let us do this, let's do that. And so my father said, well, your mother doesn't, get out of the house that much. She didn't drive, she didn't work outside the house. And so he says she listens to the radio the whole day and she hears all these horrible things on the news. And so it makes her very, very frightened.
Which is kind of why, like, I kind of have to take a pause from listening to the news.
Yeah.
They even said so when October
Mhm.
7th happened, everything like that. They're like, stay off the news. Don't focus on the news right now. Like, with everything that's going on, just stay off the news. And that's where, like, I get my news bits and pieces. I don't look for it, but I realized something about myself where, like, I kind of do. Where, like, I go to Yahoo News and I get
Yeah.
like all these little snippets and comments of all these random stuff, and like I'm tempted to click on it, but if I click on it, I'm feeding into the whole situation that I really probably shouldn't. Um, and we're being distracted right now. But the main question I was gonna ask you was like, what about, I guess, with Tati, how he changes from being a husband to a father? I know it was only maybe like a year before like you gave birth to number one, Etty.
Yes, yes. We weren't exactly a young couple when we got married. I mean, I turned 27 on my wedding night.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
right. So it wasn't like we were in our early 20s. We were like pretty much both of us were like, 26, 27. So um I remember your father never wore cologne men's cologne because he felt it was girly, let's
Hmm.
say.
Okay.
And after I brought Etty home from the hospital and he came home from work, he right away came home, he took a shower right away, and he comes out, and I smell he's wearing cologne. I said, "Are you wearing men's cologne?" He says, yeah. I got a little embarrassed. Yeah. I said, "You never wear men's cologne." And he looked down, he got a little red and smiled and said, "Well, now I have to smell nice for my little girl."
uh,
Another thing was his driving.
oh yeah.
Your father,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We're aware of his driving, his wonderful driving skills.
your father was a good driver. He got an A in his driver's rehabilitation course.
He went to rehabilitation course.
He
It was that bad.
yeah, accident. They caught he had all these tickets and accidents. Worked like 5 cars. I don't know. But
Oh god.
anyway, like one time he was criticizing my driving, and his mother, in front of his mother said, "Oh yeah, he's the good driver." Yeah. So they took him to court, and the judge said he had to go to driver's rehabilitation.
Oh my god. You can imagine the conversation of how he would talk to the judge. Were you there
Um,
when
no,
he
I
went to
no, I
court?
no, I no, I
Oh, you
wasn't.
had to probably watch all the kids. Well, it turns out, did he ever lose his license?
Thank God, no.
Okay.
The judge gave him a second chance at driver's rehabilitation. But so anyway, but when he would bring him the kids from the hospital,
Yeah.
he drove 30 miles an hour on the expressway.
Oh wow.
Very slow, very slowly.
It's funny because for me that was totally different. First off, on the way to Sinai, it was really crazy because we were expecting a C-section. We weren't expecting, anything else. And then she started having contractions, and then we had to like, oh, we gotta go. Um, and I mean, I was surprised myself that I didn't speed. I went the speed
Mhm,
limit. I was just very careful and
mhm.
just reassuring. And then I just got there. And when on the way back, because I really didn't want to stay in the hospital, Ruthie wanted to stay in the hospital. I tried to push as long as I could to stay there, but I just didn't like it. It was too sterile, and like I just wanted my own like home. Um, but what happened was on the way back, I was driving again, just very carefully, but like very, very slow, like not slow, but like decent pace. I don't drive like a grandma, but like I drive safely.
I've
Um,
seen some grandmas in Florida that drive like teenage boys.
that's funny. Do they get teenage boys now? All right, let's go. But we were just so like proud of our bundle and joy. The thing is, I had to take Ruthie's car because my car was in the shop. Because when I was driving down to down the street, it's a narrow street that's also a two-way.
Mhm.
And this truck was just going through and like forcing me to pull into the side. And there was like a snowbank, and then everything got ripped up. So whatever, it's fine, it happens. Um, But yeah, it's just I'm really excited for the bris. I'm really happy that everyone in the family, both sides of the family, have definitely pulled through. Everyone's been so helpful, so helpful. I really appreciate it.
What's so also wonderful is that when that your child's being initiated into like to get biblical, the covenant of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov,
Yeah.
and that this is Am Yisrael Chai, that that we're carrying this on. I heard a funny story though about Bris Milah. This um when I don't know if it was you or one of the other boys when they were in Gan Israel in New York, that there was this Russian kid. A lot of the Russian kids at the time that were coming over
Okay.
did not have brisim, and so this Russian boy in his bunk that morning had like the day before or something, a couple days before, finally had a bris. The kid was like
Oh
91,
wow.
and he was so he was so excited that he was now
Yes, I
officially.
think
It was a year.
no, it was Yosef.
Yeah, and the kid runs over to the other boys. He goes, "Guess what?" He goes, I had my bris 2 days ago." And they go, "Oh,
Okay. Thank you, buddy. That's great. Counselor. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's I mean, it's so funny because like as a teenager, you get this attitude, and it's very hard to take this attitude away. And for me, it was the attitude of cynicism and cynical, and very much like against this vibe of like, oh, you think it's so special, you think it really matters, it really doesn't, nothing really matters, doesn't care. And like understanding the importance of the bris and understanding what it really means. It it's I don't want to just reiterate the word of important, but it's like I want to try to elaborate better. It's like you hear and talk about this idea of lineage and the importance of the lineage and the importance of, continuing on a legacy. And you don't realize what it is until it finally happens. We're like, I was going to shul today, and one guy's like, "Oh, I guess we're gonna get another Inkster and Base Lubavitch." I'm like, "Oh, you're right. It's a whole different shift. We're like
Mhm.
another part of our life is going to be this moment, and that's where we're like it's really taking upon me. I mean, I still think about like Tati now, where I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
well, what was Tati dealing with this and handling that, and going through everything, and what can I do to make things better or be a better parent? Um, but it really sticks. And it's what I find very frustrating and very sad is that I know people who grew up from went off the derech, and I think they just don't cop it anymore, or they copped it and then they just found something where they didn't care for it anymore and they threw it away. And understand now what these from parents were saying about the children that were going off the derech, where like how much it's destroying. And it's like, but what can you do as a parent? You know, what can you do as a parent when God forbid it, the child goes off the derech? And I always think to myself, like, what can you do? And best thing to do is just love them, and that's it. Like that's all I could think of.
The best thing, you had a sibling that for a while
Yeah,
did go off the derech, and um, I told him, look, I said, I don't think that this decision you made is a good decision. I'm not happy with it, but I said, you're my son. I love you. You'll always be welcome to my house. Come for Shabbos, come for dinner, please. You'll always be welcome. And later on, he went back
yeah.
he returned to Yiddishkeit, and he said it was that attitude that I had that, it's okay, but please come. I always love you. He said that brought him back sooner.
It's funny, and that's why I talk about this with Ruthie, and I always try to think to myself, like, what would I do, or what kind of family or what kind of energy do we want to bring into the house? And
Hmm.
I really want to try to create this, and I hope I look back 20 years from now at this episode and whatnot, and I see that I'm able to accomplish it. I hope I do. I really do. I'm
Hmm.
not trying to be critical. I'm not trying to be like, hoity-toity about it. I want an open family. I want an area where people feel welcome. I want a welcoming household.
Yeah.
and like there are going to be issues, there are going to be fights, there are going to be things where people are having disagreements.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, family, and family is take it or leave it, whether it's like bloodline or not bloodline, it's someone you care about and love. That you're willing to accept them and the situation for what it is, and love them for who they are. I don't want to be challenged on this. I hope to God I don't
Mhm.
get challenged on this. I just want it to be,
You can listen. We all have wants
yeah,
that we goals that we have in life, and this is a very realistic goal that you're setting for yourself, that you want to have. You want to have a happy. You want to have a happy home, a peaceful house, and
yeah, shalom bias, shalom bias.
it means everything. Because without shalom bias, you really don't have anything.
Yep.
You need to be able to come onto a house where where you can unwind, where you can relax,
You feel
yeah,
safe.
and say
That's one thing
so
I'm
true.
trying and hoping that this is true, that when Jelly Bean, as soon as he finishes, getting his
Do
name.
they know that you call your son Jelly Bean?
Well, he's gonna be called Jelly Bean for now, and he's
Yeah.
gonna move on to something else later on. Like I'm not too worried about it.
Tomorrow he gets his name. But
Yeah, he gets
yeah,
his
this
name.
is what too is that um like a lot of people who it's not that I'm telling people what to do,
Yeah,
okay, but the fact is that if you intermarry, and this is any religion intermarry, the reality is that you're setting yourself up in a situation where you are not going to be carrying on your heritage. In some cases it works, in some cases it works out where the kids, I mean, I've seen cases where the mother's Jewish and the kids realize they're Jewish, okay. But I've seen situations where the fathers were Jewish, the mothers were not, and then later on the fathers, when they realized that their children were not going to carry on their heritage, were kind of disappointed. But and this is something that everybody has to and a reality that people have to deal with.
I think what it is, and this is just something that I kind of get very frustrated with.
Hmm.
And I know there's tons of people that would hate me for saying half the stuff I'm about to do.
Hmm.
Well, whatever, life goes on. The thing is that I've been down this road where I was dating someone who wasn't, Jewish at the time, and then got married to them, and then it fell out. And the one thing I could say is that, it's a culture clash. It's a major culture clash on an intense level. I mean, certain vernacular you'd have to translate, certain mannerisms you'd have to translate, certain, and
Hmm.
you have a lot of Jewish people that date non-Jewish people. They don't realize it until it hits them, until they actually have, a kid, and they're like, oh, let's do Hanukkah, let's go ahead and, go to synagogue, let's do this, let's do that. And the spouse is like, can we not? I kind of don't want to do that. And you're like, oh, we've never had this real discussion. We've never really discussed this. We've never realized that, like, it seems all nice and fancy. You get to have two cultures together, and it's so interesting and amazing and beautiful. Like, no, not really. It doesn't, and it creates shalom bias issues. It creates conflict. It creates frustrations. I see on all these Jewish forums I read online where all these people are complaining about their spouse, about, like, oh, I wanted to go ahead and start maybe trying to keep kosher, but my wife isn't Jewish and doesn't really care for this stuff. Or, oh, by the way, my husband totally agrees with October 7th happening and agrees with Hamas, and I don't know what I'm saying because, like, I'm Jewish and I'm very proud Zionist. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, what did you expect was going to happen?
You hit on something I've seen a lot of this actually, where a Jewish person will marry someone who's not Jewish and then want their non-Jewish spouse to do Jewish things. And the spouse says, wait a minute,
Yeah,
I don't feel like doing this. And then they're just, I mean, come on, you have to deal with I don't know if people are trying to fool
it's
themselves.
not. This is what
Yeah.
happens from someone who actually went through this, and
Yeah,
you also
but the thing is she
converted.
converted,
I
but
know.
unfortunately converted under false pretenses.
Yes, but
Yeah.
the other point I'm going to make. See, other cat coming in. See, look at that. The point I'm trying to make is that I actually agree with the non-Jewish spouse.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, why?
because they're innocent. They
They
don't
don't
know what
like.
they're
They don't
getting
want
into.
that. Why do I need to do all this stuff? It sounds exhausting and a pain in the ass. Like, I don't want to deal with all this stuff. Great, you shouldn't.
Hmm.
Yeah, like we're not, like, this shouldn't be forced on them, and you shouldn't. And as a Jew, you shouldn't force your religion on your spouse who's not religious, who's not Jewish. Like, what are you doing? Like, what do you expect them to do? How do you expect them to react?
Hmm.
And sometimes it's a miracle, and the person actually embraces it, loves it, eventually converts. But you and I both know this isn't really the way
You're taking a
to do things.
gamble.
You're taking a gamble. And one thing I'm realizing in the Jewish world they do, and
Mhm.
in a lot of Eastern cultures they do, and in the Western world they don't, is they don't talk about the serious stuff on the first date.
So true.
They don't.
Yes.
They don't. They pitter patter for 10 years until finally someone says something and they either get forced into a marriage or forced out of a relationship. And they wonder why, they're 35 and they've been together for 10 years and, like whatever. I don't know. I sound,
It's not just Jews, by the way. I was reading the book Not Without My Daughter by Betty Mahudi.
I think I've seen that one. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
It's
was
about
based on a movie, right? It was
yeah.
about the white Anglo Christian woman who married an Iranian Muslim,
Okay.
and he tricks her into going back to Iran, telling her, "Oh, they're going back for a 2-week visit to visit his family. He hasn't seen his family in 10 years, whatever." And when she gets there, realizes, "Hey, you and your child have been kidnapped, and you're staying in Iran for the rest of your life now."
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things that he kept trying to do. He kept trying to push Islam on her. And
Again,
yeah,
it's
that
the
was
same
also one of the
thing
problems.
as a Jew
Yeah,
pushing Judaism on
right,
on their spouse that's not Jewish. Like, what are you doing?
right.
If you wanted me to be this, I would have been this. Like it sounds kind of silly, but let's put it into sports terms.
Yeah.
If a husband's a Yankees fan and the wife is an Orioles fan, and the wife is trying to force the Yankees fan to be an Orioles fan, the Yankee fan is like, this when we married, I'm the Yankees, I'm not Orioles. What are you doing? Like, it sounds silly, but now that I put it in a weird context, it kind of maybe shapes the scenario of like, what do you think you're doing? Why are you forcing this on your spouse? Take it or leave it. Oh, you don't like it? Oh, we were right the whole time. Maybe you shouldn't go ahead and do this and try to find somebody who's not aligned to what your beliefs are. That's the whole point. It's not aligned to your beliefs. But like when you say it like that, it gets offensive. People get annoyed. You'll tune out. You'll get frustrated. It's just whatever. It's very frustrating.
I think what is with a lot of times with marriage, let's face it,
Not just difficult as it is.
no, with that with marriage, when people first get married, their motivation is anything but real sustenance. Their motivation is often sex and romance. Let's face it, that's
Security,
that's what
love,
most people's
care. I don't think
yeah.
sex and romance sounds kind of barbaric and sounds like more teenage boppy. But I think marriage, when you have it before the kid, is something where you have a closeness and of a relationship with someone where you get to enjoy their company, enjoy spending time with them. You take long walks, you go to concerts, you date, you just it's for me the second time around it was very relaxing and enjoyable. And the thing is, when it comes to marriage, you're gonna have a lot of things to worry about. Why are you throwing a monkey wrench into the system?
Well, there was a very interesting letter that the Lubavitch Rebbe had. He was addressing a young man who wanted to marry a non-Jewish girl.
Yeah,
And the Rebbe, like you said, the Rebbe actually took the part, actually backed up the part of the non-Jewish partner.
yeah,
He said, "You know what your non-Jewish partner is getting into. She doesn't. She's innocent.
yep,
This is not fair to her.
correct.
She does not know what she's getting into." He said, "Now you know. He
Yeah,
says, you can't do this to you. It's very unfair to you to do this to your non." He said, "If you really loved her, you would break up with her because you wouldn't want to hurt her."
yeah, yeah. Or if you had any the other thing also is if you ever had any self control and understanding and being able to go ahead and realize you want to do the right thing, sacrificing, certain parts of your pleasure in order to have a decent life, in the future. And I think that's the biggest frustration that happens a lot of times is people get caught up in the romance, in the sexuality, in all these things like that, what you were saying beforehand,
Mhm.
and then they don't want to admit to themselves the other issues that they're kind of not seeing.
The Rebbe also mentioned this in the letter too. He pointed out to the guy that this man was actually being very selfish. He said, "You're not thinking about this other person. You're just thinking about yourself and your own pleasures, your own desires."
Yeah.
Um, I got else the Rebbe said. Oh, I was about to say something else that the Rebbe said in the letter. Oh yeah, he said that the problem is too that when marriages don't work out, people don't want to admit that they made a mistake and that they have a bad marriage.
Yeah.
They try to
Well,
sweep things under the rug. They try to
mm,
smooth things.
I mean, when a marriage fails,
Yeah.
I think a lot of times hindsight kicks in right away,
Mhm.
and you start realizing all the faults, all the issues, all the problems you should have noticed beforehand, or you knew all along. You were just kind of putting on blinders because if you had to admit it, it would make you have to do real work on yourself, for that was just be a difficult conversation. You'd rather have like pain and suffering for 20 years instead of a difficult conversation that will last maybe 5-10 minutes. But
Mhm.
that's just life. That's just being an adult and then learning from
I
it and
had a
growing
date
from it.
like that, by the way,
Yeah.
where I went out with this guy twice, and he had a very over controlling mother who, when we were out on our second date, actually called him up and told him to please come home, that she was nervous, she was having a panic attack, and he just left me. And we were sitting on
It's a
this.
shit update.
Yeah, it was a shit. Well, it was a shit update, true, but it was this was
Semi.
the semi. Because he
Okay.
saw me. He asked somebody, please, could you arrange, for us to
Mhm.
go out, yada yada, But he saw me at a wedding. He saw me dancing, and
Yeah.
he liked what he
Oh, really?
saw. Yeah, he said
Wait.
no. He
Okay.
saw me. He was looking over the machitza.
Oh,
He's dancing, and he asked somebody, "Hey, who's that woman? And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
can you fix this up, whatever." So, we were sitting talking on this man's porch who had made the date. Who had arranged the date, and we were talking, and that's when his mother called, and he just not even goodbye. Sorry, I've got. He just ran off the porch.
Hmm.
So on our third date, I wanted to discuss the situation with him and point out to him. I said, "Did your mother know you were out on a date?" He goes, "Yes, she knew." And I tried to point out to him how his mother was so very over controlling and was ruining his life for him. And his reaction to me was, "I don't think we should have this conversation."
Yeah, I could, because that's the other issue. And I was like this. I'll admit it. I was very much like this for a long time, where I would have a lot of avoidance when it came to situations, relationships, attitudes, my personality, anything, where I would just try to avoid it. And eventually got to points where I had to confront certain parts of my personality. I had to work through it and understand it and realize what I could I do to make it better. And that's what I would do. Um, and that's kind of how this whole system uh works. Sorry, I'm being distracted by
Jelly beans in the room.
jelly beans in the room. Um, but yeah, I mean, life's a crapshoot anyways, so go for it. But
The sad thing, not the sad thing, but there is so much richness and cultural, value, in Judaism. In Torah Judaism, there's so much. It's such a rich culture, and there's so many beautiful values that so many religions and governments have actually taken on because they're so good. And it's said when someone is not is not Jewishly educated, and they're making life decisions, not knowing what is so available in their own religion.
that's life. That's life. It's you make mistakes, you learn from it, you grow from it, you see what you can do. That's how it goes. I know ideally you would not like to make any mistakes, but that's called being human. And you have to forgive yourself if you ever been like that. And anyone listening, they would have to think,
I could have.
yeah,
That could have been me, except that I was able to meet people who, I was able to meet people who were able to expose me to real Torah
yeah.
Judaism and Baruch Hashem in time.
All right, we're gonna have to call it end this episode soon, end this episode now.
Okay.
But I'll talk to you later and hope you guys have a great Shabbos. Love you.
Bye bye.